Good afternoon. This is Judge Alyssa Perez, resuming the criminal docket for the 210th District Court for August 16, 2022. All matters being heard today are being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. We have had, I don't know if it's part of the issues we were having earlier with Odyssey, but I did notice at the afternoon setting earlier that there was some glitchiness with the feed. So Mr. Owings, if at some point you are getting a lot of interference or can't hear what we're saying, please let me know, at least by waving your hand. Same to you, Mr. Joseph. If there's any interference, please just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Calling cause numbers 2022-0D02735, 2022-0D01672, and 2021-0D03120. All cases styled State of Texas versus Angelo Owings. May I have announcements, please?
Robert King from the State of Texas.
John Joseph on behalf of Mr. Owings, and we are ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And as we were discussing briefly off the record, Mr. Joseph has filed motions to substitute on the cases for which he already had a representation. And I did see the order, so I'll be signing off on those. Mr. Joseph, your client is appearing remotely from the jail annex. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Owings has been in custody since May 6, 2002. He has 3 pending cases in the 210th District Court. One of them is a second-degree robbery with a $100,000 bond. He has a state jail possession of a controlled substance with a $25,000 bond, and a state jail credit card, debit card abuse with a $5,000 split bond. The last recommendation on Portal is 5 years deferred probation. However, Your Honor, this was before Mr. Owings picked up 2 state jail cases and other misdemeanors. So Mr. Owings is 18 years old. He just turned 18 years old on May 27th, 2002. He is a United States citizen. He was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. However, he has been in El Paso since 2016. He was enrolled in the Western Tech GED/trade school program before he was incarcerated. He is engaged and his fiance is currently pregnant with his first child. If he is released on a personal bond, he will be staying with his family at 1600 Shaftesbury Drive in Clint, Texas. His stepfather and his mother reside at that residence. He does have permission to return to that residence. Mr. Owings knows he's going to have to grow up fast, Your Honor. He knows that much is going to be expected of him. He knows he has to make changes in his life so he's not behind bars. With this in mind, Mr. Owings has been participating in the reentry program while he has been incarcerated at the jail annex. He has completed 11 courses as of today's date, ranging from anger management and behavior change to financial literacy and entrepreneurship. If he is released, Mr. Owings plans on continuing with his at Western Tech to obtain his GED and to learn welding. Mr. Owings is not a flight risk and he's not a continuing danger to society. And for the foregoing reasons, we are requesting a personal bond on these cases. However, in the event this is not agreeable to the court, we are requesting a reduction in bond on all 3 cases. And that is all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Ms. King?
Your Honor, my system is a little slower than usual.
So what I'm going to need to look at, and maybe Ms. Nieto can help me on these, I'm looking at the PSR information, obviously, so I'm trying to get my head around dates of offense. So he's basically, let me see. I want to know dates of offenses and what these misdemeanors are. I'm just trying to go through this list. The last event cycle I see shows a May 5th, 2022 date, and I guess I'm going backwards here. And that has some well, actually, within that, there are burglaries of vehicles from July 6th, April 29th. Then I have the credit card or debit card abuse. So that's my case. That's showing May 5th, but those dates I may be reading these wrong. So maybe Ms. King, I see an unlawful carrying of a weapon, drug case, that's mine.
Judge, so I actually have some information on that. I have dates of offense, and then I also have, so for instance, the resisting case, that case has been declined. The unlawful carrying of a weapon case has been declined, and the possession of marijuana as well. So he has 6 cases pending right now. He has 3 felonies here, and then he has 3 misdemeanors. The three
And the-
misdemeanors I have are the theft of property. I'm showing a date of offense of 5/5/2002.
Mhm.
And then I'm seeing the BOV and the credit card, debit card abuse as 4/29/2022. And then the possession case as well as 5/5/2002.
Okay, the theft and the possession. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Let's see. All right, Ms. King, is your system working?
It's somewhat, yes, Your Honor. Other than those charges, there is no criminal history. So the state doesn't oppose a bond reduction. However, the state, I do oppose a PR component just for the nature of the offenses and I guess the time that these offenses occurred. It was very short time span between each other. That's the state's position, Your Honor.
Mr. Joseph, what kind of resources does he have toward a bond?
Judge, he does have some resources, not much though. I know that he has tried to post these amounts, but you know, they're requesting property. In my experience, anytime it's anywhere, just depending on the bonding company, anything over 50,000, you know, they usually request some property to be put up for the bond.
Okay, so let me see if I can go back to Odyssey really quick. This is gonna be. Okay, so he has, in terms of the misdemeanor cases, he's already, they've already given him straight PR bonds there, right? Is that correct? He's just on PR bonds on the misdemeanors?
That's what I understand, Your Honor.
So, let's see. All right, and I guess you all had bond hearings. Well, maybe it wasn't you, Mr. Joseph, with the jail magistrate on these cases.
It wasn't me, Your Honor. I just got on about, I'd say about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay, so with respect to cause number ending 2735, I just wanted to take a look at that PR bond order. It is split. It's a $5,000 split bond, which was a reduction. I think it was originally 25,000. That's okay. So it was originally 25,000. They reduced it to 2,500, 2,500. That one will remain unchanged. Okay, I think that's an appropriate bond there. With respect to cause number ending 1672, I'm going to reduce it from a $25,000 bond to a $10,000 bond, and that will be split 5,000 cash surety, 5,000 PR. Marissa, in terms of the conditions, I was just trying to look at the conditions so we could make them consistent. But no, I don't know. We'll leave that one PR bond order the same, but mine's going to be a little bit different. They have him, well, no, because they're using one of those matrix orders that have it on standard reporting. So I am going to redo the bond conditions on the PR bond components to what I want. So he is going to report once a month to the PR bond office. I don't know, are there any co-defendants in these cases, Ms. King?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so subject to testing, no
Your
legal
Honor.
drug. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, on 1672, which is the possession case, Odyssey is showing a co-defendant for 2022 1671. Someone named Aaron Joseph Villa, also in the 210th.
Okay, is there a relation there, Mr. Joseph, to your client?
From what I understand, Judge, it was a traffic stop. And that's where this case came from.
Okay, so no contact with the co-defendant. And then, let me go back to my bond order because that one throws me off. Let's see. So he'll have a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless he is working or going to school. No contact with the co-defendant, subject to testing, may not leave El Paso County without court permission, may not change his place of residence without court permission, commit no new offenses. Let's see. Robbery. I guess I don't know who the alleged complainants are in the two cases with complainants, but no contact with complainants in either case. Okay. Okay, that'll be the bond order. Did I finish? I didn't finish, huh? I have the last one.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which is the clause number ending 3120. I'm also going to reduce that one to a 20. It's going to be a $25,000 split bond, 20,000 cash surety, 5,000 PR. Mr. Joseph, and then of course the bond conditions, PR bond will all be consistent with one another. Mr. Joseph, if for whatever reason you need to come back to the court for any relief on the bond, please let me know, but that'll be the order.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Williams. Who's next?
Thank you. Top of page 7, Judge.
Mhm.
The next, may we have Hernandez, Eileen Hernandez.
Is that Ms. Hernandez? Ms. Hernandez, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. I can hear you just fine. All right, calling cause number 20. Mr. Parra, can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you, Your Honor.
Great. 2022 0D02367, State of Texas versus Eileen Hernandez. May I have announcements, please?
Samantha Rock on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Victor Parra on behalf of Ms. Hernandez, we're ready.
And Ms. Hernandez is appearing from the jail annex remotely. Ms. Hernandez, we are scheduled today for a plea. Is that your understanding? Ms. Hernandez,
Yes, ma'am.
you understand that we're here scheduled for a plea in this case, a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna need verbal answers from you. Okay, so if you're answering yes or no, please say it because the court reporter is taking down everything that we're saying. Ma'am, we're gonna go ahead and get started with your plea today. So I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Ma'am, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down and would you state your name and date of birth for the record?
Eileen Hernandez, December 23rd, 2004.
As I mentioned, we're scheduled for a plea. You should have reviewed documents with your attorney, the first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. They are the plea papers. Do you recall reviewing that document with your attorney, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Ms. Hernandez, again, after you reviewed that document with your attorney, did you sign it? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, and again, let me just put out there, we've had so many internet and technical issues over the past couple of days. Ms. Hernandez, if at some point you're not hearing what I'm saying or what the attorneys are saying, please let me know, okay? Because sometimes we get a little bit of interference, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and did you understand everything contained within that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Barra, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you believe she has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering her plea today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Parra, any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter her plea?
None at all, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
What does that mean?
Ever been declared mentally unable to handle your personal affairs or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Ever been diagnosed with by a doctor or psychiatrist as having some type of mental illness?
No, ma'am.
Understood, you've been able to consult with your attorney throughout the course of your case, including with respect to today's plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea. Ma'am, are you a US citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you born?
In El Paso, Texas.
Okay, in this case, you're charged by indictment with 2 different offenses. However, I understand through negotiations, you're only pleading to one, that is count 2, burglary of habitation with the intention to commit another felony. Ma'am, as to count 2, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making your plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
I will find you are making your plea freely and voluntarily. Ms. Rago, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Say Texas versus Eileen Hernandez and cause number ending in 2367. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 12th day of June 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant Eileen Hernandez did then and there, with intent to commit a felony offense of aggravated robbery, enter a habitation without the effective consent of Brian Sanchez, the owner thereof. And it's further presented that the said defendant used and exhibited a deadly weapon to wit a firearm, to wit a shotgun or a pellet rifle in the manner of its use and intended use was capable of causing death or serious bodily injury during the commission of the immediate flight from said offense. The recommendation is 5 deferred on count 2, a $2,000 fine, 400 hours of community service, mental health caseload, no offensive contact with Brian Sanchez, UABA, curfew, all other standard terms, and dismissal of count 1, Your Honor. At this time, the state moves to enter into evidence States Exhibit 1 and 2 if there's no objections.
No objection, Your Honor.
And Mr. Barra, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, is that your understanding of the agreement as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I will admit without objection, States Exhibits 1 and 2. Ms. Hernandez, understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the 1-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case. You do not have an automatic right of appeal. Ms. Hernandez, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, ma'am.
It was signed by your attorney and signed by the court as well. Finally, the last document, the motion for deferred adjudication. Do you recall reviewing that document with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Parra, have you explained to your client both the benefits and detriments of deferred adjudication?
I have, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, do you understand that if you violate a condition of deferred adjudication, the court can proceed to sentence you up to the full range of punishment for this offense? Do you understand that?
Yes.
And are you asking the court to grant you deferred adjudication?
Yes.
I will find there is sufficient evidence to substantiate a finding of guilt. However, I will not enter a finding of guilt at this time. Instead, I will defer further proceedings and place you on community supervision for a period of 5 years pursuant to the plea agreement. There will be a $2,000 fine. Mr. Parra, are you appointed or retained in this case?
Appointed, Your Honor.
Okay, so based on your indigency, Ms. Hernandez, I'm going to probate the entirety of the fine, which means that there is a fine. You will not owe it unless you become non-compliant with your probation. If at some point you are not following your probation, they can come back and collect the entire fine. 400 hours of community service, screen for mental health caseload, no offensive contact with Mr. Sanchez, subject to urine and breath analysis, and curfew 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless you are working or going to school. There was a reference to a deadly weapon finding. I will make that finding. I also did not see this on the paperwork, but having heard the summary, Ms. Hernandez is to possess no firearms or ammunition over the course of her probation. You understand, Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anything further, Mr. Parra or Ms. Rago?
Nothing, Your
Nothing
Honor.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I keep going out of order, huh? I keep going backwards. I keep going defense first. So sorry if it's confusing. In any event, if there's nothing else, Mr. Parra, you're excused. Good luck to you, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Who's next?
Second one on page 8, Judge. Annex, may we have Montes, Regina Montes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's fast. All right. Mr. Williams, this is your client? Yes.
It is, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call it. Calling cause number 2022-0D02356, State of Texas versus Regina Montes. May I have announcements, please?
Robert King for the state of Texas.
John Williams for Regina Montes.
And Ms. Montes is appearing remotely from the jail annex. We are scheduled for a bond hearing today. Mr. Williams, you may proceed.
Judge, my client is just a few weeks shy of 30 years old. She's from El Paso. She's a U.S. citizen. She does have a history of drug use. She thought she had depression, but she has been in the county jail for 40 some odd days, and she's seen EHN and had a thorough diagnosis and has recently been diagnosed with manic depression and bipolar. She's getting medication for that she's very happy with and makes her feel better than she has felt in years. This charge, Judge, there's a lot to it. I think my client will ultimately have a defense claim. She's got a broken arm as a result of the complaining witness, who actually is a longtime friend of hers. Mr. Lattis, the complaining witness, also has a very long criminal history. I haven't been able to get a hold of him. I think the DA's office's file on portal indicates that they haven't had contact with this guy as well. I suspect he's not going to be found. He has had friends tell Ms. Montes that he's not interested in prosecuting, but he did break her arm with a baton taser, and he was chasing her and her friend, who's actually his girlfriend at the time this happened, and some other people intervened. She could live with her father, who would very much like her to return to his apartment at 2601 Nations number A. He's retired though, Judge, and very much on a fixed income, and would have a difficult time coming up with more than $150 or $200. I would ask your honor to give her like $1,000 surety bond, and the rest PR, and make drug and mental health treatment a component of the PR bond, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. King?
Yes, Your Honor. The state respectfully opposes the bond reduction. Your Honor, before I get into the criminal history, this does involve a co-defendant in this case, and possibly there might be a third one. Crime Against Persons did contact me about this case. It's one of those where the complaining witness did receive, he did go to the medical to receive medical treatment. As far as the criminal history, there is not it starts with juvenile theft of property, possession of marijuana, DWI. There's an evasion.
Didn't she, I'm sorry, isn't she wasn't she on probation, or didn't we just send her to TDC not too long ago out of this court?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, I knew I remembered this name.
Rating, I believe, Your Honor, 2019.
She did successfully complete parole, Your Honor, in March.
And what's the date of offense here?
July, I believe, or June.
Ms. Nieto, just refresh my memory. Maybe you can see it in Odyssey. Was this, oh my gosh, was it Tom Hughes's client?
Yes, Your Honor, it was Mr. Hughes.
Okay, I remember. And father was, yes, I remember. Okay, Ms. King, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe the, let's see, it is June 7th. I see that it was 2022, the date of offense. Your Honor, is just one of those, it is an aggravated assault with deadly weapon. However, there was injuries. We've been trying to get a hold of the complaining witness. We did speak to him during the JMAG bond hearing. However, we're kind of still investigating the case and trying to get a hold of that complaining witness. But Your Honor, the state respectfully opposes the bond reduction.
So I see just in terms of the related cases, there's already, it looks like there's already two co-defendants. Let's see. 2356. We don't have a trial setting. All due respect, Mr. Williams, the request to reduce the bond is denied. But we need to get her on a trial track. I see, Myrna, that some of the one of the co-defendants, I think the other one's in Criminal District 1, looks like a March 2023. So we need to go ahead and maybe track them close together. Mr. Williams, if you need to come back on the bond, please let me know.
I will, Judge. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get a non-prosecution statement and some other evidence here pretty quickly.
Understood. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can I be excused?
Yes, sir. Who's next, Mr. Marufo?
Page 7, middle of page 7, Judge. Annex, may we have Losano? Bautista Losano.
Does he need an interpreter?
I don't have it marked on my docket, Judge.
Mr. Lopez, does your client need an interpreter?
Your Honor, he does, but I don't think we need to proceed today. I wasn't able to see him yesterday. The system was down, so I couldn't visit with him to get him to sign the plea papers.
Well, but you're set for trial on Friday.
I understand, Judge. I don't know what to do. And today this is my 10th hearing this morning, today. So I couldn't get out to the jail annex during the day.
So we'll
see
reset
him tonight.
We'll reset him 1 week for a final hearing plea deadline.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Myrna, I also put the trial date for that Friday, please. All right, thank you. I mean, I don't know if you can explain to him, Mr. Lopez, in Spanish, so we don't have to get the interpreter.
Sí. Mr. Bautista. Ayer no pude ir a visitarlo porque el sistema estaba caído y no lo pude visitar, pero voy a ir hoy a la noche para explicarle los papeles y su caso, ¿ok?
That's not him talking, right? Okay.
I'll go explain to you. Le voy a explicar. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
On page 9, Judge. Annex, may we have Crystal Reyes?
Yes, sir.
All right, calling cause numbers 2021 0D00716 and 2022 0D00844, State of Texas versus Crystal Destiny Reyes. May I have announcements, please?
Well, King for the state of Texas.
Christopher Anchondo on behalf of Ms. Reyes.
And Ms. Reyes is appearing from the jail annex. We're scheduled for bond hearings. Mr. Anchondo, you may proceed.
Judge, on this case, we were brought here today. We were trying to get a plea done today, but because of the system and everything being down, we weren't able to get the plea documents. However, I was able to speak with Ms. King right now over the chat, and she's going to be sending me the plea documents on the 2021 case, and then they're going to be, I believe, dismissing the 2022 case. Okay. So we can get that done and get her out on probation.
Okay. Do you think you can turn it around in a week, or do you want 2 weeks?
Yeah, I can. If I get them today, I can go see her tonight or tomorrow and get these signed up.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I know we all are having trouble with this technical hiccup. So Ms. Reyes, we'll come back in 1 week. Hopefully we have the plea squared away, okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Anchondo.
Thank you, Judge. May I be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. King.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Page 10, Judge. Annex, may we have Theo Correas?
Mr. Lopez, how do you pronounce your client's last name?
Theo Correas. like char and then rides, like I'm riding a horse. Yeah, it took me 2 years to get it right.
I would have said it a totally different way.
Dude, your hair has gotten long.
Yes, it has. How you doing, sir?
Let's go ahead and get
Wow.
started. Calling cause number 2020-0D03367, State of Texas versus, sir, would you tell me how you pronounce your last name?
Theo Correas.
That's how I pronounce it, Theo Correas, right? Reedus?
Like
Reedus?
D-I-S instead of D-E-S. Theo Correas.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So may I have announcements, please?
Roa King for the state of Texas.
The very embarrassed Luis Lopez for
Don't-
Mr.
We were all in
Theo
the same
Correas.
boat, Mr. Lopez. That's why I asked. All righty, we are scheduled for a bond hearing this afternoon. Mr. Lopez, your client is appearing remotely. You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. I've been trying to negotiate this case for 2 years, and we finally have an assistant district attorney who's going to take the reins and help us bring it on in. Ms. King has been doing a valiant effort in trying to catch up with all of the materials. He has been on a bond or a bond PR bond forfeiture violation for almost, I want to say, 1.5 years, maybe 2. However, he continued to use his breath machine the entire time, paid it, did it, serviced it. But Ms. King now has to go through 700 pages of reports. And so she has gotten the most recent reports and she's gone through them. And it's my understanding that she's subpoenaed the rest of them already and that she would ask the court, and I'm in agreement, if we could have 1 week, reset the case until next Tuesday, and she will be able to, provided we're able to get through all the records and she's able to get all 700 records, we might be able to resolve this case with a plea if all things work out.
Okay, so then I guess I have a couple questions. I think with all of that said, Mr. Lopez, I'd at least want to give her 2 weeks. If you don't have a problem with that, we can come back in 2 weeks on August 30th. And if you all have it resolved and it's a plea and you submit your plea paperwork, then we can do a plea.
Your Honor, of course, we are at your convenience. The hardship the family's having to go through right now is my client's son. His wife has had to send the baby to stay with grandparents in California because he was the stay-at-home dad taking care of him. So I really don't like 2 weeks, but if that's what it's going to take for us to get this done and be on our way, then we will abide by your decision.
If you all review everything and you have your plea paperwork in time to have it set next week, I'll set it next week. So
okay,
work on the plea paperwork. If not, you're going to have a setting in 2 weeks and I'll check in with you all. For purposes of today's bond hearing, are you waiving that for today? I understand it might still be an issue in 2 weeks, but are you waiving the bond hearing for today?
Yes, Your Honor. Like I said, I really want Ms. King to have the opportunity to fully immerse herself in this case. And I think that it would not be fair on our half to push her into having to fight a bond reduction when I really believe that the evidence that she's going to be going through will favor a good outcome. So we'll waive it, Your Honor. Yes, long waiver of saying that.
For purposes of today's hearing, the bond hearing is waived. If you need to re-urge it, just let us know. Thank you, Mr.
I
Theo.
will, Your Honor.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. Thank you very much, Mr. Lopez. You are excused. Thank you,
Josh,
guys.
I'll be out to see you tomorrow. I've got to go over a lot of records with you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Take care. Take care, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you very much, Judge.
All right, who's
Ms.
next?
King, as always, it's a pleasure.
You too. Thank you.
Bottom of page 7, Judge, Mr. Higgs is here on pretrial motions
Okay.
for Mesa Jesus.
Judge, are you there? Annex, if we could have Jesus Meza, please.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Is that Mr. Meza?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Calling cause numbers 2022-0D00940, 2022-0D00941, and 2022-0D00942, all styled the state of Texas versus Jesus Meza. May I have announcements, please?
Oh, King for the state of Texas.
Good afternoon, Judge Bill Hicks for Mr. Meza. We're present, ready to proceed.
And thank you, Judge, for, we got the order appointing public defender's office had a conflict with Mr. Mesa's cases. And so I wanted to take advantage of our jail slot to have you here. Mr. Meza, Judge Hicks is, Mr. Hicks has been appointed to represent you on each of your cases now. And so basically you're kind of starting new with him. What I had mentioned, Judge, was at the last setting, or at least for today's setting, it was a 2801 deadline. Obviously, we have a trial track for February of 2023. Obviously, I'm extending that deadline for now, but what I would like to know from at the next setting is if we can keep that trial date or not. It would be probably pushing it. So for now, I'm going to leave all the settings, but I'll be ready to hear about a better timetable if, as you get into it, it looks to be just a little bit more involved. So, Mr. Meza, what I'm telling your attorney is that you have a current trial setting, but there may be a lot of work to do on this case, so we may have to tweak that. Your attorney obviously knows anything he needs a hearing on, he will request it from the court, whether it has to do with your bond or anything else about your case, okay? I just wanted to use this time so that you all would be on the same page. Our next setting is not until October. So Judge, see what you can look at in the interim, and we'll see from there where we go. Sounds good? All right.
Well said, Judge. Well said.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much for assisting the court. PD's is withdrawn, and Mr. Hicks is your attorney now, Mr. Meza. Okay.
Sounds great.
Take care, guys. Thank you, Mr. Meza. Thank you, Judge. Who's next?
We're back on page 6, Judge.
Mm-hmm.
Annex, may we have Aguilera, Fernando Aguilera?
Yeah. He's coming right up.
Hey, Mr. Stevens.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Mr. Stevens, how many courts do you cover?
Too many.
Had him in the 168th earlier today.
I was gonna say, that's where I saw him on YouTube, was in the 168.
Yes, the 168th and the 210th. I'm getting too old for this, Judge.
No, you're not. All right, Mr. Aguilera, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're about to get started with your plea. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Aguilera, let me just let you know, again, sometimes the internet, we've been having a lot of trouble with it. So if at any point the audio gets messed up, if you can't hear us completely, please let me know, wave your hand, do whatever you need to do, okay?
Correct.
All right, calling cause number 2022-0D00418, State of Texas versus Fernando Aguilera. May I have announcements, please?
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Brent Stevens for Mr. Aguilera, and we're ready.
And Mr. Aguilera is appearing remotely from the jail annex. We are scheduled for a plea today. Mr. Aguilera, I'm going to be asking you questions regarding your plea today, so I need to swear you in. Would you please raise your right hand? Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. If you would, please state your name and date of birth for the record.
Fernando Aguilera, date of birth is March 7th, 1987.
Mr. Aguilera, as I mentioned, I'm going to be asking you about documents regarding your plea today. The first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Aguilera, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit number 1 with your attorney and signing that document?
Correct.
Did you understand everything contained within that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stevens, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering his plea today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Aguilera, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Stevens, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter his plea?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Aguilera, ever been found incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea, sir. Sir, where are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you born?
Here in El Paso, Texas.
Okay. In this case, you're charged by indictment with 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount less than 1 gram. As to count 1, sir, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Ms. Rago, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. State of Texas versus Fernando Aguilera, cause number ending 0418. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 11th day of March 2020, in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there intentionally or knowingly possess a controlled substance, namely methamphetamine, having an aggregate weight, including adulterants or dilutants, in less than 1 gram, of less than 1 gram. Moving on to count 2. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 11th day of March 2020, in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there intentionally or knowingly possess a controlled substance, namely heroin, having an aggregate weight, including adulterants or dilutants, in the amount of less than 1 gram. The agreement is 6 months state jail on count 1 and count 2. At this point, the state moves to enter into evidence States Exhibit 1 and 2 if there's no objections.
We have no objections, Your Honor.
Okay, and also, is that your understanding of the plea agreement, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Aguilera, is that your understanding of the plea agreement as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so states 1 and 2 are admitted without objection. Mr. Aguilera, please understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your pleas. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the 1-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Aguilera, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
It was signed by your attorney and signed by the court as well. So on your plea of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your pleas and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. I will find you guilty of both count 1 and 2 of possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount less than 1 gram. And I will sentence you according to the plea agreement to 6 months confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice State Jail Facility. You will receive credit for any and all time that you've served, and obviously they will run concurrent with one another. Anything further, Mr. Stevens or Ms. Rago?
I do have one thing, Judge. Before the plea, I contacted the clerk to get the total time credits, just to double check. And the time credits that I was quoted do not include 51 days from March 12th, 2020 to May 1st, 2020, which would be about 51 days. The indictment date was March 11, 2020. So we're requesting that those days be included as well.
So, okay, hold on. Tell me the dates on those, I guess those jailings.
March 12, 2020 through May 1st, 2020.
And he was indicted when?
Well, the date of offense was March 11th.
Oh, well, so why do we know why, Marissa, the March 12th through May 1st dates are not included? Was he?
I'm checking, Your Honor, because I do see a jailing for that, but it is not showing. I don't think it was for the same warrant number. Okay, so according to Odyssey, when I clicked on the charges for that jailing, it is for 2017 0D0 2144. It isn't for this case.
That's correct. He was booked on something else, but the date of offense preceded it.
So he ends up in jail. He's booked on a 2017 case, but he was, I guess, picked up because of our case. Is that right?
I think what
He was
happened,
never
I think he was
booked on
probably
this
picked
case.
up on the old case, and then they probably, I think this stemmed out of the arrest.
Okay, so let me see. So
I'm
the
sorry,
May-
ma'am. The clerk said something and I did not get that, something about the old case.
I
So-
just said he was never booked on this case during that jailing. So that's why the warrant number isn't going to show for it.
Okay, I don't have a problem giving him credit for that time. So that's March 12th through May 1st.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Marissa, you'll let me know whatever you need. Please.
I will go ahead and add it. I will say, though, that it's probably going to be the same issue as with Mr. Darnell's client. TDC may send back the judgment, and it's going to cause some delay before we send back the explanation of the warrant. With Mr. Livingston, remember, the warrant didn't execute or didn't get signed until March or until October, but he was arrested in August. So it's probably going to be the same kind of situation, but I'll add it to the judgment.
Okay,
With a
thank you. Thank you, ma'am. All right, anything else, Mr. Stevens?
No, Your Honor, I appreciate it.
Sure, we'll just have to follow up with it. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, Mr. Aguilera.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Page 6, Judge, bottom of page 6, annex, may we have Arnold, Cyrus Arnold?
It's coming right off.
Thank you.
Mr. Arnold, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go ahead and get. All right, calling cause numbers 2020-0D02359 and 2022-0D01419. Each case styled the state of Texas versus Cyrus Jamal Arnold. May I have announcements, please?
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Brent Stevens for Mr. Arnold, and we're ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Arnold, we're scheduling each of these cases for pleas. Is that your understanding of what we're doing today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking you questions about these cases and documents that you may have reviewed with your attorney. I need to swear you in, sir. Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Would you please give me your name and date of birth?
Cyrus Jamal Arnold, 4/15/1986.
Arnold, as I mentioned, I'm going to ask you about documents, the first of which is marked as State Exhibit number 1. There are 2 case numbers here, so just know when I'm asking you about these, I'm asking you generally about both 2 sets, okay? 2 sets of documents. So State's Exhibit number 1 for each case are the plea papers. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Arnold, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit number 1 with your attorney and signing those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand everything contained within the documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stevens, have you had more than 10 days to prepare defenses for these cases?
Yes, Your Honor,
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering his pleas today?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Arnold, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stevens, any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter his pleas?
None at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Arnold, have you ever been found incompetent, mentally incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
I'm not bipolar, anxiety, and depression, but that's about it. I have
Okay.
connected with ADHD.
Okay. Are there any conditions that have been diagnosed or anything else that you're experiencing right now that is preventing you from understanding what we're doing today?
No, ma'am.
Have you been able to effectively communicate with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Even with respect to this plea, you've had every opportunity to discuss it with him.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your pleas today. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Where were you born?
Here in El Paso.
El Paso, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in cause number ending 2359, you are charged in count 1 with the offense, the second-degree offense of assault of a police officer or judge. To that charge, sir, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
I'm guilty.
In count 2, in that same case, you are charged with the offense of evading arrest or detention with a previous conviction, that being a state jail felony. To that charge, sir, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Finally, in cause number ending 1419, you're charged by indictment with the offense of theft of property in an amount between $30,000 and $150,000. That's a third-degree felony, sir. To that charge, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, ma'am.
Are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Ms. Grago, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. State of Texas versus Cyrus Arnold in cause number ending in 1419. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 14th day of April 2020 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there unlawfully appropriate or acquire or otherwise exercise control over property, namely a Lexus motor vehicle of the value of $30,000 or more, but less than $150,000 from Katsimu, K-A-S-I-M-U, Kalala, K-A-L-A-L-A, the owner thereof, without the effective consent of the owner and with the intent to deprive the owner of the property. Now moving on to cause number ending in 2359, State of Texas versus Cyrus Arnold. The state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 24th day of March 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there intentionally or knowingly or recklessly cause bodily injury to Oscar Gomez by striking Oscar Gomez about the arm or body with a cord, and the defendant did then and there know that Oscar Gomez was there, then and there, a peace officer for El Paso County. Now moving on to count 2. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 24th day of March 2022, the defendant did then and there intentionally flee from Oscar Gomez, a person the defendant knew was a peace officer who was attempting lawfully to arrest or detain the defendant, and it's further presented in the said court that prior to the commission of a 4 offense on the 18th day of December 2009 in cause number 2009-0C06849 in county criminal law number 3, the defendant was convicted under section 38.04 of the penal code of the offense of evading arrest with a vehicle. The recommendation is 5 years probation, $1,000 fine, probate the $1,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, mental health caseload, BHRTC, UABA, curfew, all other standard terms and conditions of probation. These cases are to run concurrent and dismiss 2022 0D01421. At this time, the state moves to enter into evidence States Exhibit 1 and 2.
Any objection, Mr. Stevens?
No, I don't have any objection. I would add that we also have the agreement that the misdemeanors will be dismissed, and I'm to contact the misdemeanor prosecutors after this hearing to get that accomplished.
Is that correct? And if so, let me go ahead and have those case numbers just so it's on the record.
Yes, Your Honor. Bear with me, portal is slow and I apologize about that.
We have I can read it. We have criminal mischief 100 to 750, which is 2022 0C 01192. We have criminal mischief 100 to 750, 2022 0C 01992. There's also one that is unfiled resisting. If it's been filed, it's 2022 P file 03187. So I'll probably have to deal with that in the future.
Okay, is that all of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so understand Mr. Arnold, or let me ask you, I don't know if I asked you, is that your understanding of the plea agreement as well? Now that your attorney kind of added a few other
Yes,
things.
ma'am.
Okay, so understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your pleas. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal these cases except on matters raised by written motion or ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the trial court certification of your right to appeal. It is a one-page document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case, or these are plea bargained or negotiated cases, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Arnold, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
They were signed by the court, signed by your attorney as well. So on your pleas of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your pleas and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. In cause number ending 2359, I will find you guilty of the offense of assault of a peace officer or judge, and that's in count 1, and in count 2, evading arrest or detention with a previous conviction. As to count 1, you were sentenced to 10 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division that will be suspended for a period of 5 years of community supervision. In count 2, you were sentenced to 2 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice State Jail Facility that will be suspended for a period of 5 years of community supervision. In cause number ending 1419, again, I will find you guilty of the offense of theft of property in an amount between $30,000 and $150,000 and sentence you according to the plea agreement at 10 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division, suspended again for a period of 5 years of community supervision. So you're going to be on 5 years probation on each of these cases, Mr. Arnold. The terms of your probation will include a $1,000 fine. I am probating the entirety of the fine due to your indigency and per you all's agreement. 100 hours of community service, screening for MH screening. I had here a notation for BHRTC. Is that right? We were at BHRTC already?
That's correct.
Okay, so has he already been, I guess, do we have the paperwork going? I don't know that it can be, even if we had it, put into effect until we have all his cases wrapped up, Mr. Stevens. So I don't know if we need to come back or if you can just keep us apprised of that. But you will be doing that probation. You'll begin at BHRTC. You'll be subject to all of the terms, standard urine and breath analysis, curfew. I will sign a dismissal in cause number 2022 0D01421. The remaining disposition on those misdemeanors will have to go to the appropriate court, Mr. Arnold. Is there anything further, Ms. Rago or Mr. Stevens?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
I don't believe so, Judge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carla, I did see you kind of come on video here. Did you have something to add here?
Your Honor, I will go ahead and submit the paperwork for BHRTC already. It's a direct placement, so if there were to be any changes, I will keep the court abreast of it, but I don't believe there should be any issues with it.
Thank you for that, Carla. Okay, Mr. Arnold, we're going to try and get you on your way. Thank you very much and good luck to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take care. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Who's next?
Top of page 7, Judge. Annex, may we have Hutcherson, David Lee?
This page is, what's the bond amount? Do you know?
I believe it's 20,000 cash surety, Judge. Judge, and I do have his mom. I believe she's in the waiting room. She asked to participate out of a courtesy. We did send her a Zoom link.
Is she a witness?
No, I won't be questioning her. But if the court has any questions regarding SSI, she would know about it.
So you should let her know that to observe, she can go on to YouTube. But if you do call her, I don't have a problem leaving her in the waiting room, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Let me call it. Calling cause number 2022-0D02619, State of Texas versus David Lee Hutcherson III. May I have announcements, please?
Samantha Ragg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
And Myrna Pages for Mr. David Hutcherson. We are ready as well, Your Honor.
And Mr. Hutcherson is appearing remotely from the jail annex. We're scheduled for a bond hearing. Ms. Pages, you may proceed.
Yes, Judge. So my client is 37 years old. He is a U.S. citizen and he was originally born in California. He has been residing in El Paso for about 2 years already. He has been in custody for about 32 days. I do believe that his bond amount is $20,000 cash surety. And what the issue is, Judge, is that they are asking for collateral, which his family does not have. His mother, Irene Jackson, who is available should the court have any questions for her, does not own property to my knowledge that she can put up for collateral for him. If released, Judge, he would reside at Desert View Apartments, 9300 Montana Avenue. He has resided in this apartment before while he's been living here in El Paso. We did verify that and his apartment is still available. I believe it's paid up for the next month, so it's available for him to go back in there. He does have dogs, is what I was told, Judge, so there's a concern about who is taking care of his dogs. My client, Judge, is disabled. He gets SSI. His mental illness is, let me look at my notes really quick. He has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type, and as well as intellectual or developmental delay. It is concerning, Judge, in the sense that he is currently taking medications while at the jail, but he's not being given what he normally takes and what he has taken all his life, which is Seroquel. He has indicated that he takes 400 milligrams of that daily, and he's done that for years. And right now at the jail, that is not available for him, and so that is concerning. I would like for him to take what he's used to taking and what has been working for him. At the time of the alleged incident, he was off of his meds for about 2 months, and now he understands the importance of maintaining his medication. He has agreed that he will follow up with Emergence Health Network to address any mental health needs as well. It also has been brought to my attention, Judge, that he may possibly be receiving some threats while in custody and maybe have been assaulted, is what I was told. He does fear for his safety and for his life, and this is coming from alleged possible gang members. My client is not a gang member, but he is concerned for his safety. His mother's also concerned for his safety being in custody, Judge. The court should be aware that I believe his risk level was assessed at a level 1, Judge, and I'm trying to find that right now. Or can give me a minute. He was assessed a level 1, Judge, and this is by the pretrial services. They did indicate there that there would be a high percentage of him reporting for his court appearances as well as not committing a violent offense. So he was assessed.
Hold on, Ms. Pages. Let me stop right there. Ms. Nieto, are you able to see? I always have trouble on Odyssey pulling up that risk assessment. Do you have access to it? And if so, can you send it to me? I find it very, very difficult, Ms. Pages, and maybe my PSR is wrong, but I show him being a fugitive out of Georgia and having extensive criminal history in at least 4 states. Some as recent as 2021. So was that taken into consideration when they did that assessment?
Let me look at it, Judge. I just had it, and I will forward it to the court as well. Okay. I'm pulling it up.
Your Honor, they do not have the assessment scanned in on the jailing side.
Okay.
I have a pretrial report July 12th from, I'm getting this off of Portal, Judge. And he is at a level 1, and I am not showing anything from Georgia. And let me see if I can email this to the court.
Yes, ma'am.
David Hutcherson. Incident date 11/29/2019, 11/29/2019. David Hutcherson, fugitive from justice. Chatham County Sheriff's Office, felony, transfer out of state. That's Savannah, so that's 2019. I mean, the bulk of the history comes from California.
Okay, I'm gonna email what I am looking at, Judge. I'm hoping, and I'm gonna.
If you'll go ahead and just, when you send it, but Myrna, you can keep going.
It downloaded, Judge, and I have I'm trying to find it.
Let me see if I can do it. Sometimes I forget, like when I start searching, I can find it, and then sometimes I can't. So you can just keep going on your bond.
Okay, I think I found it, Judge. Let me
email.
No, let's see. Yes, I found it. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second and the court should be able to get it.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So yes, Judge, and the reason that I did have Miss Jackson, which is his mother, possibly available for Mr. Hutcherson, is that she is obviously concerned for his safety, Judge, and she is the payee. She's the one that manages and directs his SSI. She's obviously very acquainted with her son. She's very concerned and she would like him out. She's not able to afford any type of a bond at this time, and she doesn't have any collateral, Judge.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Rago, you're handling this?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's concerned about the defendant's criminal history. He had a possession of a cocaine that was reduced down to misdemeanor, obstruction of a public officer that was reduced down to misdemeanor that was in 2005 and that was dismissed. These are in different states. Possession of a concentrated cannabis, which was a misdemeanor in Casso, Oakland in 2007, and he was placed on 3 years probation. A DWI in Castracy in 2009, and there were multiple cases that where there was arrests, but they resulted in dismissals. The state's concerned about a flight risk and then the nature of this crime as well. A gun was pulled out, and that's the state's concern, Your Honor. At this time, the state opposes a PR bond and a reduction of bond, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rago. Ms. Pages, I did receive the, so thank you for sending that. They do, it looks like, I mean, I'm not going case by case, but they tracked the criminal history with DISPO there. Let me go back to PSR.
Judge, and if I may just briefly respond to the state. So Mr. Hutcherson is being charged with robbery, not aggravated robbery. I don't believe that a firearm was ever found. Also, there's issues with the credibility of the complainant in this case, who was allegedly purchasing THC cartridges.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, due to the prior history, including this FFJ that I'm not sure, there's no hold on him. Is there for anything, Marissa, other than our case?
No, Your Honor, there's no hold.
Okay. I'm going to deny the request. I think 20,000 is a reasonable bond based on the criminal history and the nature and circumstances of the offense. So it'll be denied. Does he already have a trial track? Yes.
I believe he does have settings, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor, he's set for trial on April 21st of 2023.
Okay, if we need to readdress the bond, it looks like we have our arraignment here coming up pretty quick. We need to readdress it, Ms. Pages, just let the court know. Thank you, Mr. Hutcherson. Thank you, Ms. Pages. Who's next?
Staying on page 7, Judge. Annex, may we have Lara, Fernando Lara?
Here, sir.
Ms. Lerma, who are you here on? Oh,
Judge,
I just thought I didn't remember seeing your name. I saw you here, but then I was like, I don't think I've seen your name.
I popped out and then I just came back in, Judge.
No worries, thanks. All right, this is Mr. Lara calling cause number 2022-0D02538, State of Texas versus Fernando Marco Lara. May I have announcements, please?
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
And Myrna Pages on behalf of Mr. Fernando Lara, ready, Your Honor.
And what is his current bond?
I believe it's a 5,000 cash surety bond. Judge, and he also has 2 other felonies to possession cases that were recently indicted. And I don't know if the court is willing to hear everything.
Okay, so, oh no, that's a co-defendant. Let me see. So is it the 2872, Ms. Pages? Oh, there it is. Okay. 2872. Okay. 2872, and that's for what? Oh, yeah, I got away from there. Yeah, so the burglary habitation is 5,000. That's 4,400. What's his bond on 2872, Marissa?
It's $1,000 cash or surety, Judge.
All right, so we'll go ahead. Yeah, I don't have a problem. He was just indicted last week. Okay, so this will also be with respect to 2022-0D02872, State of Texas versus Fernando Marco Lara. Bond hearings on each of these. Ms. Pages, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Mr. Lara, Judge, is 32 years old. He is from El Paso, Texas. He does have a GED. He has been in custody approximately 53 days. He does have a support system here in El Paso, Judge, consisting of his father, Fernando Lara, as well as his sister, Monica Lara. My client does have a 4-year-old little girl. Her name is Amelia Lara as well. Judge, so in this particular case, my client is not able to afford these bonds. My client is indigent. And if the court can just give me a moment so I can pull up his okay, so Judge, if released out on a bond, my client would reside at the rescue mission. And subsequent to that, Judge, he would reside with his father as well. There is no mental health history that's been reported. However, there is a substance abuse issues, and Mr. Lara is confronting that. He is willing to follow up with punto de partida for continued treatment, Judge. In addition, my client is currently enrolled with the reentry program there at the jail. He has completed several classes while in jail. In fact, he's completed about 40 courses on substance abuse. He's made a list of things, goals that he wants to accomplish. And if the court is willing to hear him out, he actually has a list that the court can listen to. Judge, it's important in this case that one of the co-defendants, the credibility of one of the co-defendants, specifically Jerica Raven Salcedo, has made some allegations against my client with respect to this burglary habitation charge that are simply unfounded, Judge. There's indication in the report that this co-defendant gave a statement that is a complete lie. And based on the report and based on some surveillance footage that was obtained, it goes contrary to what she actually stated to the officers in this case. In addition, Judge, it's been brought to my attention that Mr. Lara is possibly facing some sort of allegation of sexual assault. I'm not sure who the complainant is. If it is the same person, the same co-defendant, Ms. Salcedo, she's simply just not credible, Judge. We have asked the state to turn over this surveillance video footage, basically, so that we can review it and show that she's lying, and she's just not credible, Judge. In addition, Judge, my client would reside here, like I stated, Judge. If released, he would obtain work in construction. I believe he'd be able to get a job power washing. And we have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Rago?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's concerned about the criminal history. He has juvenile criminal history. There's a criminal mischief deferred in 2003, a graffiti that was also deferred in 2003. It was ultimately dismissed. Possession of a POM less than 2 ounces, and that was in 2014. The incidences were close together. The possession, the PG1 was August of 2021. Then in May of 2022, that was mid-May, there was a misdemeanor theft. Then this burglary of a habitation, 5/29/2021. And then there is an unfiled sexual assault that was 5/28/2022. That's with SVU, and that's currently in screening. I don't have an update on grand jury. And then nearly 2 months later, it was the possession of a controlled substance, 1A, less than 200 AU. That was 7/15/2022. So the state's concerned about kind of how close in time these incidences are.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Rago, or is that it?
I did request a surveillance video, Ms. Pages, that was on August the 12th. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a response back on that. And then we have had contact with our CW as well.
Okay. Marissa, can you tell me a little bit? I was looking at the jailing and it's reflecting, I think it only shows like $9,500 in bonds, but it showed PR rebels. Well, were there issues on PR bond?
Yes, Judge, I think under the JMAG side, I'm pulling it up right now.
I showed them, I figured they were JMAG because I think when they pulled them, they were like $1,000. They weren't high, very high. I just want to know what the allegations are on the PR violations.
Judge, and just so the court knows, the possession cases, they're from 2021. So they are before these cases, if that makes any sense. They are old cases that just got indicted.
Got it. Got it. I still want to know if he was compliant with his PR bond conditions.
On the theft of property, the affidavit shows committed an offense, and that's for him picking up the burglary of habitation. I'm looking at the rest of them.
Thank you.
On the possession of a controlled substance, it's also showing that the reason for the PR repo was for picking up the burger pack.
If I made it did take place before the PR bond was placed, ma'am. It's just the warrant was issued, and then I was picked up because of the warrant.
Yes, I think that's what your attorney represented. Unfortunately, I think the bonds are appropriate for these offenses. Again, I'm gonna deny the request for bond reduction at this time. But if we're gonna possibly have another case coming up or not, Ms. Pages. You need to file something else on the bond. I will definitely readdress it. If there are any, and I think this would go to your other client as well, Mr. Hutcherson. If you all are able to put together a plan that might help assist in terms of a release, I'm not so sure how much that will help in Mr. Lara's case, but for sure on Mr. Hutcherson, Ms. Pages, then let's start looking at that as well. But if we need to come back on the bond, I'm fine. Let's look at it again. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lara. Okay, let's go to Mr. Testa and Miss Lerma.
Hi, Judge. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, is that Mr. Testa? Is that you? Yes, sir. Okay, calling cause number 2022-0D02537, State of Texas versus Bradley Wayne Testa. May I have announcements, please?
Roa King for the state of Texas.
Veronica Teresa Lerma, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Testa, we are ready.
And Mr. Testa is appearing remotely from the jail annex. We're scheduled for a bond hearing. Ms. Lerma, you may proceed.
Yes, Judge, Mr. Testa's bond is currently set at $50,000. I am appointed to represent him. He is indigent and he is unable to meet that bond. He's 37 years old. He's a U.S. citizen. He's lived in El Paso since he was 8 years old. He would have a job as a welder through a metal fabrication, Judge, through Global Transportation. He does have 3 children whom he provides for. There's no child support order, but he does provide for his children. He would continue to reside in El Paso, Texas. And we're asking the court to consider a personal recognizance bond. I'm sorry, Judge, it's been a very long day. So that he may be able to be released. He's currently has mental health issues. He is bipolar. He does suffer from anxiety. He does suffer from PTSD. And he has been trying to get into the health clinic since June 28th. That was his last visit so that he could resume his medications. This is very important that he does so. And we're asking that the court consider, as I mentioned, a PR bond.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. King?
Yes, Your Honor. The state respectfully opposes the PR bond. As far as criminal history, I see just a not guilty possession of marijuana in 2004. There is a smuggling of persons, July 2021. I believe the disposition was trying to find that disposition. However, there is also out of New Mexico. It is a misdemeanor. I apologize, not New Mexico. McLean County, Illinois, I believe there is a misdemeanor, a violation of Liquor Control Act, which is the on-view arrest. I'm not too sure what they mean by that one. I don't have a disposition for that case. And Your Honor, allegedly the weapon that was used in this offense was a knife. And Your Honor, we're still I have requested some discovery things such as photographs, medical records to be uploaded. Therefore, the state respectfully opposes the PR, Your Honor.
Let me look into this, the Audubon shutdown. Okay, so we have 2000, so we have Illinois, New Mexico, Texas, and West Virginia. So in 2020, okay, now it's contagious, Ms. Lerma. Now
Sorry, Judge.
In 2020, I do have from Danyana a failure to appear there. I mean, it looked like it was a traffic. Let me see. And this is ours, 2004, Irving, Hudspeth, Sierra Blanca, the Smuggling July 2021. Marissa, does he have any holds on him for anything?
8638.
No, Your Honor, I'm not showing any holds.
Okay, wanted outstanding agency, that's from Las Cruces, failure to appear. Okay. Yeah, it's not totally extensive. So are you, Ms. King, are you opposed to any reduction or were you opposed to just a pure PR bond? What were you opposed to?
Your Honor, I'm opposed to a pure PR bond. I will not oppose a bond reduction at this point.
So Ms. Lerma, I'm going to go ahead and grant the request. It won't be for a straight PR bond though. I'm going to go ahead and reduce it to 20,000, split it 10,000 cash surety, 10,000 PR. He will be required to report to PR bond once a month. You possess, did you say it was a knife, Ms. King?
Yes, Your Honor.
Once a week, once a month, subject to testing, may not leave El Paso County or place of residence without, change place of residence without court permission, subject to testing, use no illegal drug or alcohol. I am going to put a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless he is working or going to school. And I think that's it. So we'll go from there. If for whatever reason, Ms. Lerma, we need to come back on the bond, let me know, file it, and let us have another hearing on it.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Testa. Mr. Marufo, was that our last case?